really, at the end of the day, it's just the matter of a macro market. It's just what happens.
That's why it's really important to have a plan. Have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this DJ?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about impermanent loss.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, so where you can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host for the evening without a face. Hopefully you still remember my voice, even if I am on the road to this week. But it is I, Zenith, the voice without the camera. And today we're talking about Extreme Ownership by Jocko, Willink, and Leif, Babin. I am joined by my usual panel of guests and awesome familiar faces to see. It's very good to see everybody on a good Friday afternoon. I'm going to start off with my co-host, Will. How's it going, brother?
You're muted, Will.
You're muted.
Well, would you look at that? It's not only a physical mute, it's also an electronic mute. Hello, everybody. For those of you who don't know, I'm Will Stevenson. I am the networking wandering tower worker of the channel. I go around and do a lot of meetups and meet and greets and shaking hands, kissing babies. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be meeting up tomorrow in Springfield, Missouri with my good friend Paul Sachs, as well as some other Hexicans from the Hex Meetup channel. So if you guys are over near the Springfield area, over by Kansas City, or over nearby Columbia, or anywhere in the Ozark zone, you should swing on over to Springfield and hang out. We're gonna have a good time. Mr. Farmer J, what's going on with you, bro? What is new and exciting with you?
Couldn't find my mouse.
There you are. Yeah, there we go. What's up, bro?
Not much new. I did enjoy this book pretty good. Nothing exciting. I'm a boring person.
All right, good to hear. Pass it over to Nate. How's it going, my man? How's your week going?
Man, I'll tell you what, today was so extremely busy. Like, when I talk about needing to be like pinpoint on time with everything, with all that was going on via work, and then also trying to, you know, listen to the book, and then also trying to learn some stuff here, as well as, by the way, I think it's very ironic that I happen to get promoted today to being the lead of my branch. The same day that I'm learning about leadership, huh? That's interesting. But
Big
no,
shot
I really
right?
yeah, for sure. I really like this book. Yeah, there was some repetitive stuff as far as like the stories go and all that. However, the simplicity of it is what I really liked about it. I mean, it's basically like you need to take responsibility for the amount of information you gather and you receive, to be able to make decisions and move forward with things. And that's kind of overall what I was getting out of it, and to just try and do the best with this any circumstance with whatever it is that you can do, you know.
Definitely agree. The book is, shoot, I want to say it's almost 300 pages long. Yeah, we are close to, just a hair over 300, including the appendix. So the concepts are not anything crazy, but a lot of it is story and relatable fluff, so to speak, to help tie it together. So yeah, you're not wrong. It's
quick comment. I did not think I was gonna like that book at all.
Really?
But I actually ended up enjoying it very, very much. It's a good read. Well, I didn't read it. I listened to it. But
yeah, through the ear holes. I feel you on that one. But we will break down that a little bit more. We still are missing out on our producer of producers, Mrs. Producer. How's it going this week?
It's going better than last week. I don't know. It's going good.
Better than last week is about all we can ask for. You have been
right.
a little bit under the weather, and we are very thrilled to have you back. So thank you so much for, even if you're not feeling well, continue to put on these shows so that we can get on here and just yap for 2 hours, so to speak.
Just yap for 2 hours.
True. Alrighty, tell you what, we can go around and do our first impressions of the book. Farmer J, I didn't mean to cut you off entirely on that one, But so you're talking about you weren't expecting this book to like it going in, but afterwards, what'd you think? Can you give us like an elevator pitch about how it reads?
Yeah, I was expecting something completely different. But I just like how his stories were relatable to the lessons he was teaching. I don't know, like I said, I just didn't expect that I was gonna have the reaction to the book that I did. I was expecting something completely different. But no, all he talked about is how when sometimes you're put in certain situations, the outcome you want, like you have to work at the outcome you want. Like we'll get more into it as we talk, as we go through the chapters. But I just found it a very, very interesting book. Not what I expected, but I did enjoy it very much.
Definitely. I think it's very easy to look at the cover of this book and assume that it's going to be kind of just a bit of a cut and dry, more of a lecture, so to speak. But honestly, this is a bit of a war memoir, which is that this is talking about Jocko Willink and Leif Babin during their time in Iraq. I want to say it was around 2004-ish. They were notably in Ramadi, which is the city where there was a lot of the fighting that was going on. And a lot of the lessons can revolve around his time actually in a combat zone over there. So if you enjoy a good war story and listen to Jocko describe how you can turn a wall into Swiss cheese with 50 BMG round from a heavy machine gun, yeah, this will give you a good insight into that.
Yeah, but it's not really a war book at all. It's just he uses those stories to relate to practical leadership skills in real life. Well, not that is not real life. That's actually more. But he takes, yeah, that's actually a more serious place to be. But he takes those stories and the lessons he learned there, how you can apply them to everyday life.
Yeah, they actually have sections where it's just like straight up like examples for business. And then they'll start going on about, what happened with different businesses he's got and how a lot of these war stories and the leadership that was happening there can also literally be directly translated over to like with business and all that. But I think we're kind of missing out on Sam here. Sam, what's been up with you, bro?
Not much. Oh, it don't matter none. You didn't skip me. You just saved me till the end.
Hey,
save the best for last.
Not much, guys. Every week is a better week than the previous one because we should always be trying to improve our lives. And so lately, though, I got some cool stuff coming out. We just finished the Brothers Two of Them cookbook. It's totally done. It's arriving at my house tomorrow. And there's only 50 copies, and people are already coming and getting them. So if you want a cookbook that's going to be pretty much the best cookbook you'll ever buy, then hit up Will or I on the Telegram. Either way.
Sam, I'm going to have to disagree with you and say that it's not pretty much the best cookbook that has ever been created.
There is no
definitively.
Second best.
There is no second best. There are no other cookbooks. Once you buy this cookbook, you will never need a cookbook for anything else in your life ever. Guaranteed 110%. That's all I have to say about that.
Are we going to have is this going to go to colleges and stuff like culinary schools and be like, this is the Brothers 2 cookbook legends?
Oh, probably not, because the reality is that there's only 50 copies and we're not producing anymore. And so colleges aren't going to be willing to pay what these are worth.
Yep. And also colleges will become irrelevant. Like with the advent of this cookbook, there will no longer be a need for college. So you guys can save yourselves about $40,000 a year simply by buying this cookbook.
No, these books will be at colleges. They will be bootleg, mass produced by me and sold to all the colleges.
Okay.
I was just going to say, fuck the Michelin star. Just become a better cook by reading a book.
Excellent.
Exactly.
But to talk about the book a little bit, this book is one of my favorites in terms of, like, if you go through your day and you don't think of many lessons from many of the books that we read, but you keep this one in mind, like you're generally going to be able to like solve a lot more problems, and a lot more people are going to like you if you just like take responsibility for even stuff that doesn't have to be your fault or like wasn't like objectively your fault. But like when you work with people, and especially when other people do the same thing and you're like basically having a conversation with somebody where they're trying to accept the blame and then you're trying to accept the blame, it makes it so much easier to solve the damn problem, because like neither one of you is being emotional about it. And you're both just like, it's almost like a game at that point. And you're like, you just both understand that, like, okay, it doesn't matter whose blame it is. What matters is that we solve the problem. So like, this is a very, very good book for that.
Yeah, you got to point then on there, like, if a mistake's been made, all right, let's find out what happened. You can't go back in the past. Now, what can we do to going forward? Like, it's good to take the lessons, but not dwell on it.
Yep. More exactly.
Truthfully, I find the lessons in here very simple. You know, there's a lot of simple concepts to it. In fact, there's an entire section in the book called "Keep It Simple." You know, it's just simplicity. But that's a story that, you know, I'll let Zenith kind of flow into when we get to it. So, all right, Z, so where are we starting here today?
I want to ask Mrs. Producer her thoughts on the book before we get down to my fastest 5 minutes of a chapter breakdown summary.
Hi, sorry, I was trying to type something and then you called me, and so I'm like, I got on mute.
Sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
What do you think about the book overall? Was it an enjoyable read for you?
I will be honest. I found it kind of boring and hard to focus on. I think the main reason is because I'm not really into anything related to like army or war. So for me, it was kind of like, you know, just a little bit more difficult. Definitely agree that the messages and lessons are fantastic. I feel like we've, you know, seen a lot of them already, kind of strewn throughout all the other books we've done. So it just kind of reaffirms that. I really love the basic concept of owning up to, you know, when you do make a mistake or when you do something wrong. So that was my biggest, that was the thing that stuck out the most to me, really, I guess. But unfortunately for me, I had a really hard time kind of focusing on the stories as much. So
that is entirely understandable. If you are unfamiliar with Jocko and have not seen his like actual face in person, he is a character for sure. And if you're not his type, I'll fully admit he probably is not going to be super engaging for you. However, if you are kind of like the maybe archetypical military-aged male, he's probably right there for you. But outside of that, maybe
I
not.
like him, and
yeah,
I'm not a
Jocko's great.
I'm not a military-age male. When the draft comes, y'all can leave me out of it. I'm too old. Farmer's too old to get drafted.
Farmer, I think you're haunted, or you got your door open because that curtain is driving me nuts.
Is it?
It keeps freaking me out.
No, it's the wind.
I know. When it first started moving, I was like, "Oh God, what's happening?" I just like stared really hard at your camera, and then I'm like, "Oh, he's got to have it open."
No, it's the wind.
But it's not that I didn't like the stories or the book at all. I did like them. It's just I had a hard time kind of like staying focused on it and not like zoning out. So it doesn't help. I've also had a lot of other things kind of going on in my life right now. So, you know.
That is entirely understandable, and it makes perfect sense. By the way, I think now's a good time to do a little bit of a chat shout-outs. I have one person in particular I do want to give a special shout-out to, and that is our
really
good buddy.
Quick, did we get Will's opinion on the book? I can't remember if we did already.
Well, if we didn't, I'll go ahead and hop in. I'm in the same boat as you, Mrs. McGettit. I was, and this could just be because I have a pretty extensive military background. So like when like I got to the portions of the book where Jocko was telling like his stories and things, it was all very much like, oh yeah, that's like I've heard this stuff before in many different realms from many different people. And so like I got the message. So what I did with the book is I fast forwarded through the stories straight into like the messages and the meat and potatoes without necessarily the emotional selling points. They're definitely effective stories at putting you in the mood and seeing like what was going through their thoughts and everything like that. But it you know, not everything's for everyone. Some people can get to the end goal without like going through the stretch, and some people need to shoot. Maybe not need to, but maybe it's just more beneficial for some folks to hear the stories. But I'm in the same boat as Mrs. McGettit. I skipped through a lot of the book, but it's still a good book. The principles in the book are sound and logical and like more or less irrefutable. So I enjoy the takeaways while not necessarily enjoying the way that I got there, if that makes any sense. But
yeah, that makes sense, Will. You know, but like say for me though, I enjoy not only the stories, but then it kind of puts me in the mindset of like it's a story that I can put myself into, you know, how you would read a book, right? And I can like play a little movie in your head, but at the same time, those lessons are kind of like they become practical at that point when you're listening to, you know, how they came to the conclusion of how they either implemented these leadership qualities or, you know, how they learned about them too. So, you know, that's kind of why I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah. To Will's point about getting past the story to the principal, what's nice is that this book literally has a part of each chapter where it just says principal, and then it breaks it down. So he does the intro, the excerpt, the backstory, and then it's just like, hey, by the way, dummies, this is it right here, this part. Pay attention. So it is nice, and I think it helps you breeze through the book a little bit easier. Alrighty. Time to talk to our friends in the chat. I have one friend of ours in particular I want to shout out. He actually left us a message in the book club Telegram, which does exist, by the way, thanks to credit of this man right here, the Links man, the Telegram man, and the Meetup man. So if any of those desires, talk to him. First up, we got Centurion 54X. He says, good afternoon, DJs. Great book today. Take responsibility for everything in your life. Own it. Yes, Centurion was the one in the Telegram chat earlier. Before the show even started, he put a message out in there. He was like, this is a damn good book. Excellent choice. And I'm like, what can I say? As far as how it reads, I too agree that it might not be the most entertaining or the most engaging. However, the principles here really set the stage for a lot of how people live their life. And I think it's very particular, especially in the field that all of us are in, which is cryptocurrency investing, aka do it yourself. We play on hard mode, so we get hard mode benefits, but at the same time, playing on hard mode is hard. And you got to take ownership of everything you do. There's no one really to save you on that one. And last but not least, we have our good friend and the best cheerleader in the space, Tam Tam. She says, what is up, fam? Good to see you, Tam Tam. Thank you again for coming. Always a pleasure. Alrighty, with that said, this is the part of the episode where I gas myself by talking way too much, way too quickly.
By the way, I do not
we
invest
still
in
got
cryptocurrency. I only invest in digital assets.
All right. I mean, that's the hey, and we got Vets in Crypto. Bang, bang. Good to see you, brother.
Bang,
Vets,
bang,
if
bang.
you have any comments on the book, please put them out there, and we will be happy to read them and get your take on this one. I have a feeling that you are very familiar with this one. Hey, and we also have our very own Agent J, Jocko. Just the good. If you have ever seen the podcast, you will understand that reference. He does have a podcast, by the way. It's very good. It's not for everyone, but I like it a lot. Alrighty, are we good? Do we hit everybody?
Taylor.
Taylor? There's a Taylor. Zenith, do you want me to cover chats? Or no, you got your laptop now, so you should be able to.
Yes, sir. I am learning from the master himself, Will Stevenson. We have the phone, which is running the stream, and then I have my laptop, which is being used for research and chat purposes.
That's how I do it.
Pick that one up from that guy right there. What a way to go. All right, let's get to it. We're going to do the rundown of the chapters, and I want to open up the conversation about the main topic of the book, which, by the way, is the topic of chapter number 1, which is extreme ownership. Everything is your fault. This is the central tenet of the book, which is that you take ownership of everything, especially if you're in a leadership position. Passing the blame off to someone else does absolutely nothing, because when you do take ownership and fault for things, it actually empowers you a bit, because it means that you believe that you have control over what's going on, and you have the ability to influence it in a certain direction that you think is good or beneficial. Alrighty, chapter 2, we have no bad teams, only bad leaders. Talks about the story from SEAL Camp, where they had an underperforming team and an overperforming team. They did a leadership swap, and then what do you know? Suddenly, the great team is maybe dragging behind just a hair, but then the bad team is all of a sudden doing well. Everything rises and falls on leadership. And this book is one of the great examples of that. Next up, we got chapter 3, which is believe. Leaders must understand and believe in the why of the mission and be able to explain it to everyone else. You can't get other people to buy into your vision unless you can clearly communicate it. Chapter number 4, we got check the ego. This is leaders being not caring about their own reputation as a point of stroking their own ego, because it's just going to cause conflict and it will detract from the previous why, which we just talked about. Don't do it for your own glory. Do it for the reason that you're trying to get going. Next up, we got chapter 5, cover up and move. By the way, I apologize. I am outside. If it gets too windy, let me know. I will find a way to fix that. Chapter 5, cover and move. Teams need to work together rather than act as enemies. In some cases, this means that teams need to stop moving forward and actually switch to start supporting each other. It's within your own team, or if you have a partner team. While there is healthy competition in life, at the same time, You can't accomplish the mission if not everybody's at the finish line. So help your battle buddies. Next up, we got Chapter 6, Simple. Great planning is a simple plan. Simple plans are understandable, and you can communicate them easy, and it also helps with the execution. Which, speaking of which, next up is Chapter 7, Prioritize and Execute. Leadership is often overwhelming, but if you always pick the most important thing and focus on it, then you're going to be sure that you're moving in the right direction. Next up, we have Chapter 8, Decentralized Command. This is one of Jocko's very important points that he talks about on his podcast, which is decentralizing command, aka having that degree of separation, which allows the person who did the separation to kind of have that 10,000 foot view and really see things from a different perspective. So he says extreme ownership is not micromanaging. Delegation means taking ownership by allowing others to take ownership. This also goes into a different chapter up later, which is leading up and down the chain, but that's number 10, and we're on number 8. Number 9 is plan. Planning is everything. If you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. Next up, we got Chapter 10. This is leading up and down the chain of command. This is how you can start thinking about this concept and applying it outside of just yourself, especially if you operate in a hierarchical structure such as the military with rank, command, and breakdown. This is the idea that you're going to do a great job if you are able to help, empower, and promote ownership both up and down the chain of command. Help the people below you buy in, give them the ability to be involved in the planning so they have that buy-in. And then additionally, if you want to stop your boss from asking you all the million questions that you feel like you already answered and are slowing you down, help inform them and allow them to take ownership by making sure that they feel they have the correct info to really grasp the situation and get a hold of it so they can trust you to run your part. Next up, we have Chapter 11, Decisiveness and Uncertainty. This is one of Will's favorite concepts, aka getting that 80% solution instead of waiting for the 100% solution. And waiting for that 100% solution is a certain solution or recipe for failure. Winners are the people who are willing to take educated risks, not just risks, educated risks. And lastly, we have the final chapter of the book, Chapter 12, Discipline equals Freedom, the Dichotomy of Leadership, which, by the way, is Jocko's other book, The Dichotomy of Leadership. Good chance we'll be covering that at some point in the future. I kind of like his works. Spoilers. Lastly, all right, so Dichotomy of Leadership. It's not about motivation or inspiration. It's all about the discipline to put in the work. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, that was our rundown. I want to take it back to the central topic, which is extreme ownership. As Michael Sartain likes to talk about, not everything is your fault. However, you are exclusively responsible for how you react to it, and that is the ownership in his opinion. What do you guys think of this core tenet or principle? How do you translate it into central life? Like, are you responsible for the price of Bitcoin, or are you responsible for your actions that you take as a result of the price of Bitcoin, aka buy or sell?
I'll go ahead and jump in this one. You can't control the world, but you can control how you react to the world. That's the basic principle of your question, right? Is like,
yes, sir.
We need to. Or go ahead.
Oh no, I was asking, like, what does that mean to you? You are not responsible for everything, but you're responsible for how you react to everything.
Yeah, so like you can't stop anything and everything from happening, but you can control like what you do with your physical corporeal form and what you choose to think about it. You can choose to cast some good spells on yourself and put yourself under some good hypnosis, or you can look negative and focus on the bad stuff. You can decide whether you're going to take positive action towards something, you're going to decide if you're going to take negative action towards something, or you can choose not to make a decision and just let the chips fall where they may, right? So like the book focuses on more of the positive, the hard positive and the hard negative aspects of decision making, and less so on the stagnant, just easy choosing to not make a choice idea. So you just like folks just need to recognize that. I know we've referenced the Serenity Prayer a few times here on this channel of like Lord, grant me the peace to frickin' not worry about the things that are outside of my control, the wisdom to deal with the stuff inside of my control, and like the courage to take care of like the things that are difficult to me that are like in my little zone. Like, don't worry about things that are outside of your zone. Only worry about things that are inside of your zone, and make constant forward progression towards your goals as best as possible within your realm. And just recognize that there's other things that are outside of that. And the only one that can change anything about your life is you. If you're waiting around for the world to change for you, you're going to be waiting an awful long time, and it's going to probably feed you like a spoonful of shit that you don't want to swallow. So that's my take on the whole lesson. What about the rest of the panel? What do you guys think? I can
Well,
see
ultimately,
that Nate is up. Yeah, go ahead, Nate.
Yeah, what you're talking about, Will, is basically responsibility, and I kind of find it interesting because like ownership and responsibility quite literally are the same thing, you know.
Yep.
And yeah, you are correct about the serenity prayer. I actually pulled it up here. It's God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That's the big thing. Now, obviously, there's more to it than just that, but that's the line right there of you simply have acceptance into what it is you are able to do in your life based on circumstance, you know. And so, I mean, you can't really change the weather. Like for me, I would much rather have had a nice sunny day to, you know, be nice today, but instead I got rain and I got wet and it was miserable because it was a lot of cold wind blowing. So what am I going to do? Am I just not going to do my work? You know, am I just going to be miserable all day? No. You know, I was listening to this. I was enjoying that. You know, I was thinking about other things I could be doing, right? Setting up for working towards, right? You know, the future and all that. Meanwhile, yeah, I was miserable being out there, but hey, at least I'm outside having fun being outside, right? It's a lot better than being cooped up in a small little box doing nothing and then being bored and I don't know, freaking drinking or something. I don't know. It's like, yeah, I'm outside doing something.
Yes, so you could take that the whole framing of that idea, Nate, is like you can't control the weather, but you can control where you want to work. You can control whether you get in the car. You can control whether you stand outside and get the goal accomplished. You can control a whole bunch of things. And the idea isn't like, you know, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but like you focus on the stuff that's in your power. Like you can go and do other things in the rest of the world, but the fact of the matter is like here you are now, and it's time for you to deal with the problems or with the like great stuff that's right there in front of you.
Yeah, it's the defeatist mindset, right? If you have a defeatist mindset, it's kind of like, oh well, things are happening, I can't do anything now, and you sort of sit back and wait to die. It's like that's a terrible way to live. Instead, the idea is you take ownership, right, or responsibility, and you say, you know what, I don't have to just sit back and die. I can actually take control. I can actually do something to move forward, and I can make something that I wish I could have, aka like a happy life or whatever, right? That most all of us want. But in able to achieve that, simply got to move forward, right? One leg at a time, one step at a time. Isn't that what they say usually?
Something like it. I want to get Sam in here. What are your thoughts on the ownership principle?
Yes, sir. So kind of pointing to the original point that you had asked about with regards to the response part. So there was a quote somebody said in one of the books I read at some point where your instinctual or emotional reaction to something is maybe outside of your control, but your response to it and the reason you can apply and the actions you take are within your control. You may feel a whole lot of things when someone does something mean to you, or you may like experience all this extra stuff and like it's no, it doesn't feel good and it makes things hard. But you don't have to react to something. I mean, obviously, if someone swings a mace at your face, your body's going to react, and so you can't really control that. But like in most situations, that's not going to be a problem. So, you know, I just want to emphasize that point right there. It stood out to me when I was reading the book, and that came up because it was very. It just related well back to the other quote that I had heard regarding, you know, you don't have to. You can control the part that is the acting part. It is not the, you know, you're not a slave to yourself.
Very true. All right, let's talk it over to Mrs. Producer. What do you think about this ownership principle and applying it to daily life?
I think it's, like I said, I think this was my favorite chapter of the book and the story that stuck out to me the most. He talks about how he, I can't remember who was the one firing, but basically his platoon ended up hitting one of their own teammates, so friendly fire. And in their situation, that was strictly prohibited. They were not, you know, friendly fire was, I don't remember exactly what they said, but it was not a good thing. It was punishable. But anyways, so when it came around to it, and he's being talked to about this thing, he just said, "Yeah, they're my platoon, so it was my fault." And he said in there, right after that because he handled it that way, and because he owned up to it right away, and didn't try to hide from it, didn't try to like blame it on somebody else. He just completely took that and owned it like that. He gained more respect from his superiors and then also from his troops. And to me, that's something that I try to do when just in my own life, obviously not in an army situation, and we're not shooting anybody, but I just try
Hopefully
to
not.
always acknowledge when I do mess up, or when I do have an emotional response that ends up not being good. So to me, that was really important. I really like how they detailed that, and I think it's completely true. It's way better to live with a mindset that you're not perfect. You're going to make mistakes. You need to own your mistakes, and you need to do better. And that's it. I mean, that'll help. That basic concept will help a lot of people improve a lot of things in their own lives, in my opinion.
Most definitely. I think you hit the nail right on the head there with this first chapter. Honestly, if you're going to listen to any singular chapter from this book, this is the one, because this is the central tenet of it all. And even like this producer you're talking about, if you don't understand what having a friendly fire situation in a combat zone looks like, the message is still very clear, which is that it went really south really quick, and that at the end of the day, it was a very complex situation. However, Jocko was in charge of a lot of the forces there and a lot of the teams who unfortunately ended up actually shooting at each other at some point. And then immediately the brass above him was like, all right, cease all operations. We're going to come and investigate. And then he pretty much got up in front of everybody and started asking the question, all right, who's to blame for this? Who did something wrong here? And then one by one, people from his team and his unit went around. And they're like, oh, I should have done this. It's my fault that I did this. And one by one, he told each and every one of them, nope, you're wrong. You're not to blame. You're not to fault. And then he says, ultimately, I am in the leadership position here. I'm in command. All this falls on me. This is my fault right here. And like he said before, this is one of the ways that he actually gained a lot of trust and a lot of good favor with the commanders above him, because this actually showed that he was willing to adjust and understand the gravitas of command in a combat zone. And this ultimately, honestly, saved him his job. In a situation like this, where you have a friendly fire situation, where not only is it just like a small, like stray round, but this was a full-on firefight with their own guys who had lost communications with them. So yeah, him, who was not involved in the original mess up, who was not technically to blame for the actual events that happened, but because he realized, like, look, this is my team, this is my area of operations, these are my plans, these are my operations, everything ultimately falls on me. The buck stops with me. That is the thing that really kind of saved him in this one and earned him a lot of good favor with everything. So we touched on it a little bit, but I want to talk about the popular idea of stoicism is, and how does that contrast with this book in particular. I think a lot of us might be inferring a little bit of one to the other, because some of us ascribe to the stoicism philosophy, which is that you really can only care about the things that you can care about. And it's like understanding what is in your control, care about it and do the best, and then accept ownership where you can. And then other than that, if things are outside of your control, like you have to accept that a little bit. I think, in my personal opinion, this book does it understands stoicism, but it tries to put a layer of practicality on it, which is that you should care about everything. Everything is under your purview. Everything is up to you. Not necessarily the outcomes, but believing that you have the ability to influence it in certain specific ways. That's the tenet here. And I think that conflicts a little bit with this popular idea of stoicism in today's culture, which is that care about what you can care about, do everything in your power with that stuff, but the stuff that's outside of it, you kind of just got to let it go. Do you guys think I'm onto something here, or am I just crazy?
No, I think that's about right. Nate, you look like you got something. Go ahead, brother.
So what he's talking about here is compounding. Leadership is compounding. So what is it like? Vets in here literally started it off. Step one, make your bed. So, right? Step one, make your bed. Will, you said step two, pick your shit up. Right? But it's compounding. Once you can take care of your room, then you can take care of your house, then you can take care of a partner, then you can take care of a family, Then you can take care of your community. Then you can take care of what do you call this, county. Then you can take care of a state. Then you can take care of a country. So you see how that leadership compounds into bigger and bigger. Just compounds and becomes bigger, right? Until you become basically leader of the world, right? But it always starts with a small thing, and that's what you're talking about there, Zenith. So I just want to
A little bit, yeah. I think I was maybe trying to put a little bit of a limiting or understanding what the upper bound of this idea looks like. Because if you take literally what Jocko is saying on this one, it is the understanding that you can lead up the chain theoretically as high as you can possibly imagine, believing that you have ownership and influence over everything that happens. So like you were saying, make your bed, clean your house, clean your town, clean your state, clean your country, clean the world. It's like, okay, if we're trying to talk about a level of practicality here, where does it actually fall? Like, how much does my influence actually expand? And in my opinion, I think this one might be a little bit of a values question or a goal setting question, which is that, do you have aspirations to run the country, be a governor? If not, then maybe trying to take ownership of some of those things is not worth it, because to do that, you might have to start losing sight of smaller things, so to speak.
I'm going to jump right in here. Yeah. So something that just popped to mind when you said that was like, I could go to the vote, like on voting day, and I'm trying to exercise my right to control the direction of the country, right? I could spend my time, go out, wait in the line, and vote. And I'm not saying you should or shouldn't, but I'm just phrasing it as like, here's your options. You could go do that, or maybe your like laundry needs to be done. And like one of those things can actively solve something that's going to directly impact your life sooner and possibly have a better impact. Now, like obviously that's a large disparity, but the concept of like, if you take that to an extreme of like, yeah, I'm not trying to solve hunger in Africa right now because I'm trying to make sure Mr. Pumpkin has food too. Like I'm directly responsible for him. No one else is going to take care of him. Like this is something that's more important to solve. And the reason we have to put these limits on things is because we don't have infinite amount of time or resources. And so if you're going to direct your time towards things that are like going to try to be impactful and positive, then you should do them in an order that's going to build the momentum.
So I'll just say this about this chapter. It kind of hit a nerve with me personally, just because growing up my whole life, I was told that I should make excuses. I should have a victim mentality. And that's not me. And a lot of people that I grew up with subscribe to that. And they're where they're at in life, and I'm where I'm at in life, because I never believed in that. I always believed that my life is dictated by my actions. What I choose to do, my life is my responsibility. Nobody's going to give you anything. So if you want something in life, go out there and get it. Work hard and get what you want. Now, if you want to sit out there and make excuses and complain, then you're going to get exactly what you deserve, nothing.
Farmer Jay, can you move the mic about halfway closer? Do a sound check real quick. Yeah, a little bit closer. Yeah.
How about now?
Oh, dude, that's perfect. Yeah,
Bingo.
absolutely. Fantastic. All right. Give us a 1 in the chats if the sound is good from Farmer Jay. It sounds good for me. I'm not sure if it's my headset or what it is, but sorry about that, Farmer Jay. Could you please continue with your thought?
No worries. Yeah, like I've said, like take accountability for your actions. If you want to do certain things, then you have to take the actions to make that happen. Like stop crying, stop complaining. If something fails in life, it's your fault. Sit there, analyze what went wrong. Don't dwell on it, but take a lesson from it. What did you do wrong? What lessons can you take from it? What can you change? How can you move forward? Like I said, this is why I like this book particularly that much. It's because like I've always been a person about accountability. Like whatever you do, you're gonna get a result because of it. Like stop crying, stop complaining. Shit didn't work out the way you wanted to today. That's fine. Get a good night's, get some rest tonight. Get up in the morning and get back to your hustle, your grind, whatever your purpose is in life. The next morning, no matter how shitty your day was today, tomorrow's a new day. Go out there and get what you want. Nobody's going to give you the results you want. Like you're going to have to strive and get these things. Life is not easy. It's a struggle. People that succeed in life actually put in the work. If you don't want to put in the work, that's fine. But don't sit there, bitch, cry, complain, and moan and grind about things that didn't work out your way. Like a lot of people like to play victimhood Olympics. I do not subscribe to that. In life, you get what you deserve. What you put in is what you're gonna get out. If you want to be a lazy fuck, that's all you're gonna have in life. You're gonna get nothing. Like I said, it just hit a nerve with me.
You can keep what you kill. I like it.
I mean, not to get
Very
too
well said,
Chronicles of Riddick, but yeah. Mrs. Producer, what you got?
No, I was just saying the farmer hit the nail on the head. Pretty much perfect right there. One thing that I always, I guess, subscribe to or try to tell people, if you can't be accountable for your own actions, you will never grow or change or learn.
That makes sense. I mean, Farmer, I think you were the first one to bring it up, but the A word, accountability. After reading this book, does everybody feel like we have a little bit clearer of a picture of what accountability is? I know I've been on a soapbox about this for probably like 3-4 weeks now, but in my mind, what happens is that the word accountability gets thrown around a lot. AKA, if you look at like the first chapter in this book, when they start doing that investigation after the friendly fire incident, you could argue that the brass is up there looking to impose some accountability, throw some accountability around and like fire someone who's at fault here. It's like accountability is not necessarily, this is my personal opinion here, Z's opinion, fair warning. Accountability is not this thing that you impose on other people, but accountability is something that you do for yourself. Accountability is being willing and able to accept responsibility and the consequences of it. But also at the same time, accountability is how you correct yourself instead of being forced to be corrected by higher authorities or forces above you. So it's like, it's very easy in a structure, especially a hierarchical structure, to sit there and complain about, oh, we need accountability. Like someone below me, like the janitorial staff isn't cleaning the toilets. Accountability would be me yelling at them about not doing their job. It's like, is that accountability? Or is accountability finding a way to work with those people and motivate them or impart on them that, hey, this is of critical importance, it's not getting done. I need us to work together to get this finished. At the same time, it's not saying that like it is my job to go scrub toilets if I'm the commander. It is saying it is my job as the commander to understand that I need to help the people do the things that they need to do so that everyone collectively can accomplish the mission.
It's the same issue. It's the same issue you run into with. Oh, I'm sorry. What was that, Z?
I'd say this. I know I went on a bit of a tirade there. I just wanted to bring it back to talking about the idea of accountability.
Yeah. And to add on to that, it's the same idea as with corporations and disciplinary action, in which they call it coaching. Okay, so every single, like, coaching is supposed to be the idea of like you made a mistake and you're going to have a write-up for it, right? Disciplinary action, aka write-up. You only get so many till you get fired, but we're going to coach you how to not make this mistake again. But instead of actually making it like a positive, like, hey, you messed up, okay, now let's teach you how to not mess up again, like coaching regularly would be. Instead, they just say, oh, you're getting a coaching and then you're done. And it's like, okay, whatever, dude. Like that's a lot of the issues, most corporations nowadays, and kind of hierarchical leadership tiers in general tend to be very cold and more so like we're just doing whatever it is that the boss says to do. And I don't want to get, I don't want to leave my position. I don't want my position to, I don't want to be kicked out of my position. Right. And so I'm going to do whatever it takes. And what's interesting about this book is they talk about this a lot, about how you need to lead up the stream, right? Not just down. And you need to lead up by saying, I'm messing up according to my bosses. I'm not doing good enough according to my bosses. Why? Ask that question, right? Why? Why am I not? What is it that the bosses need? What is it that I can give my bosses so that way they stop asking me questions? That was a really good chapter, listening to that one, because you can bet, especially in corporations, you deal with that a lot. You get these just ridiculous little from the top things that come all the way down, and then being the person in the trenches every single day, you're like, this has no practical use. In fact, it's hindering the ability to do anything. But you can't speak up during meetings because you'll get fired or whatever, or they'll not like you. But that's the normal thing that people tend to think. Instead, what you should be doing is, how can I make a case where even the higher up bosses have no choice but to at least look into it? How can I make that case? That is called ownership right there.
I like it. Nate, I think you had a really good point there when you're talking about the corporate idea of coaching, which is that you coach people who are not doing well. It's like, technically, yes, coaching is helping people improve their performance, but coaching is kind of like, I think it's also become one of those buzzwords that possibly gets thrown around and used incorrectly, such as in this case. It's like coaching is more of like, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Like getting in trouble, like reprimanding. It's like coaching is not reprimanding. Coaching is coaching. Reprimanding is reprimanding. And I mean, I think you did a good job of also helping answer my question there a little bit of like what is accountability actually? So toss it over to the rest of the panel. I want to talk about accountability a little bit more. What do you guys think? Is accountability something you do to yourself or that you do to others?
I think it's a little bit of both, depending on what your position is. Like you were saying before, though, it's not wrong, or nor is it a bad thing to try and hold others accountable. However, the way you do it definitely does make a big difference. One thing that, and I mean, science will tell you that studies have been done on this countless times, and the conclusions are pretty solid, that people respond better to basically just positivity way more than they do like corporal punishment type of behaviors. There was I can't remember which book this was in. I'm pretty sure it's one of the ones we've done, though. It might have been How to Win Friends and Influence People. But the story of the janitor who was doing a terrible job, and nothing could change him until somebody came in and said, hey, you're doing a great job. I really like how you did this one thing. They picked one thing that he did well and they pointed it out. And then they kept doing that, and they kept doing that, and they kept doing that until suddenly this janitor was like amazing. So it's much more of an effective tactic. So that's, I guess what I'm trying to say is, accountability, you can, kind of enforce it with other people, but you have to do it in the right way. If you try to come in and punish them, what we're talking about with this coaching stuff, I mean, first off, if it's a good employee, they're going to leave. You can't coach good employees and like sit there and rip on them and expect them to come back around and then work harder if they're already, doing what they need to do and doing a good job. Bad employees, they're just not going to care. And eventually you're going to have to fire them. So I guess that's kind of my take on it. And then being accountable for yourself, I kind of touched on that earlier already. So
I like it. All right, rest of the panel, what you got? The dreaded A word, accountability.
I think that accountability is inherently tied to responsibility and authority. And when it comes to holding people accountable, it only works if you have any sort of authority over them and if you are responsible for the things that they do and the things that you do. So like, for instance, on this podcast, I have no authority over any of you guys. We're all equal here on this podcast. I cannot speak for the DGen Roundtable. I cannot speak for you guys. I can only speak for myself. I'm in no position of authority to take accountability for your actions or enforce some sort of like code of conduct or something of that nature. When you're in a position of leadership, you're responsible first and foremost for accomplishing the mission, and the people that are in your charge are helpers that will either like assist you in getting that mission accomplished, or they are like anchors that will stop you from getting that that said mission accomplished. Earlier, Zenith, you had brought up about the janitor and cleaning the toilets and things like that in the building. So it's not the CEO's job to clean the toilets, but it is this. And I'm using the CEO here, kind of like this isn't something that a CEO would really be worried about. This is like skipping several layers in the chain, right? But we'll just say that the head guy, top dude in charge of the building, is in charge of having a clean building, and he also pays a guy to make sure that the building gets cleaned. If he is paying this guy to make sure the building gets cleaned and the building is not being cleaned, and he says, hey, the building's not being cleaned, and there's no like corrective action, or there's no like and there's all sorts of like I'm skipping past a whole bunch of nuance here and a whole bunch of things that you have to do in this like position. But like the point is that the person in charge is accountable to the people that are in charge of him. So like if he's the guy in charge of the building, then he's accountable to the CEO, who's accountable to the shareholders, who are like, you know, the guys that are paying everyone's like salary and everything, or like the ones that are the reason why the company exists. So like everybody is to some degree responsible, not responsible, that's the wrong word, is accountable to others. And shoot, where am I going with this? The point is that the head toilet, the head building guy needs to make sure that the toilets get cleaned. If the guy who is getting paid to clean the toilets is not cleaning the toilets, then he has to take corrective action, and there's going to be one of two results. The action will result in a success, or the action will result in no success, in which case he needs to switch out the no success for another mechanism that will create success. So it's not necessarily like he's holding the janitor accountable. It's that he's making sure that the mission is being accounted for. And the person that assists him in doing that is either going to be a responsible adult who can take correction, or and you know, Jocko has a whole bunch of content that goes on how to correct people that are doing things not to your standards, or that are speaking disrespectfully or insubordination or things of that nature. But the point is, you need to work with people that are going to work with you, and if you cannot work with those said people, then they need to be like that's going to be an issue. And whether you fire them or you have to then appeal to a higher authority to get this person fired, that's like the next or not fired, that's the wrong word, but the job needs to get done and somebody's got to do it, right? And that's essentially what the accountability is. So those are my thoughts. It was a little bit of a ramble, but that's kind of like you can't have accountability without also having authority and without also having responsibility. Accountability is you're held to the standard of the things that you do, or you're held as either, you know, the person to get the accolades or the person to get the punishment when the thing goes wrong. The authority is your ability to change the situation, and then the responsibility is like, you know, like all of this, like the toilets are in my area of responsibility. So I have the authority to make sure the toilets get cleaned, and I'm accountable for when the toilets don't get cleaned. So those three things all got to go together. If you start missing pieces of that little pie, then you start becoming an ineffective team player or tool or guy who gets something accomplished. So those are my thoughts. Apologies for the jumbles, but I'm just kind of like rattling this all off from memory here.
I thought that was great. It was a good way of tying it together. Farmer Jay, what you got?
Just a quick add to that. I think he goes over kind of that in the chapter. What was it? Decentralized command. That delegating responsibilities to other people below you. Like you said, the CEO is not the one that's going to be in charge of cleaning the restrooms, but the CEO is going to put people in charge of different departments, and they're going to put people in charge of other things to do. And those people are going to have responsibility over other people. So it's a chain of command that you have to be able to delegate responsibilities to other people. Like, you're not going to be able to do that all by yourself. Like in construction, particularly, like I hate foremen that are freaking like just control freaks. Just tell the people what needs to get done. Tell your journeyman they can delegate that task to the apprentices, and that can get sorted out. But you can't do everything by yourself. Like you said, the CEO's not going to be there watching if the toilets get cleaned. but he's going to put somebody responsible that's going to put somebody else responsible that's going to put somebody else responsible that's responsible for that task. So you have to understand that you need to delegate tasks, and you can't do everything by yourself.
Yeah, this is decentralized leadership. Ultimately, is what that you talk about in the book. Decentralized leadership is a really difficult thing for a lot of bosses to do, because that requires you to give your trust into somebody below you, right? And to completely hands off, let them have the trust of just going and doing it and getting it correctly done, right? That's decentralized leadership. So, but what I've found is that when you teach someone how to do something, right, to be able to lead in the sort of manner that you yourself can lead, and then you just put it in their hands and say, hey, this is up to you. The fate of, and give them whatever stats, right, however much for the company, you could either lose it or win it, is relying on you. What I've found is that even all the way down to simply like stalkers, right, at Walmart, will take that to heart and be like, hey, if it's not for me doing the best job possible, just stocking this shelf, then all of these issues up the chain are going to happen. And that's on me. That's my fault. So the responsibility for good workers, right, actually seek out these types of good workers actually seek out these types of responsibilities. And if you can make it very clear that these are the responsibilities that you want them to succeed in, then people will work to actually achieve them. And that's leadership versus management. Management is just making sure people do what they do. Leadership is leading people to strive for something better.
I like it. I think you guys did a good job of tying in two of Jocko's concepts very well here. The idea is that delegation is honestly one of the answers to the other extreme of ownership. The one that I mentioned previously was trying to take on too much and believing that you are responsible for every ill in the world. This is conversely the opposite.
I have a disagreement with you. It might be semantics or pedantics, but go ahead and finish your point.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say that. So the inverse of believing you're responsible for everything in the world is kind of doing too much, believing that you have to fix everything yourself personally, believing that you as the CEO need to go clean the toilets. What delegation is you understanding your role in an organization or in a team or whatever, and instead of you physically picking up the toilet scrubber yourself, it is you directing whatever energy, attention, and emphasis that you have to push towards whatever thing you're trying to accomplish. So in this case, as the CEO, and you're trying to get those toilets scrubbed, you could have budget, you could have people, you could have time to talk about certain things, which is that, look, like our company does really great at selling toilet seats. Unfortunately, our toilets in the building, they need extra attention, so we're gonna give extra attention, materials, and personnel to the sanitation team to correct this issue. How does that sound, Will? Is that along the...
Yeah, so I was going to say that delegation is a tool by which you can exercise your authority. So when you're in a leadership position, there's four general ways that you can essentially conduct like your troop leading steps. You've got selling, telling, participating, and delegating. Those are all like authority components of how you can get your troops or your employees or your charges that are under you, or like just the people that have agreed to work with you. Those are the four main mechanisms by which you can lead people: selling, telling, participating, and delegating. I would say, like, the only thing that I wanted to disagree with you on is when you had mentioned that delegating would be kind of like something like on the opposite side of the spectrum as accountability. I would just say that delegating is a tool by which you can assure that your authority is being utilized properly. That's the thing that I wanted to throw in there. And then, like, after you exercise your authority, then you are then accountable for, like, so like if I needed to get the toilets cleaned and my janitor's out sick today or something, then then I either go do it myself and I like participate, or I go find some other guys that are under my charge that their normal job isn't normally to clean the toilets, but I sell them the idea that like, look guys, you know, John the janitor is gone today, so like we still need to get this done. So like perhaps like as a leader, you can say, hey, I'm going to go in there and do it with you, and I'm going to show you guys how it's done. And then I need you guys to bust off like, hey, Tim, you go take care of the second floor. John, you take care of the first floor. Sam, you take care of the third floor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you lead by example with participating. You also sell the concept to your subordinates, and then you delegate it out to the rest of them. And then the fourth portion of that like troop leading step is the telling. So after you, so like you don't have to do all four of these things, dependent on like the severity of the thing that needs to be fixed. Like say that the building's on fire, like you don't need to worry about selling to your subordinates the idea of, hey, get the fuck out of the burning building. You just say, get the fuck out of the burning building, and you tell them to leave, right? You exercise a little bit of authority. Some folks respond better to being sold an idea. Some folks respond better to like having stuff like delegated out, where you like split tasks into little groups and you send one person after each and every little group. But that's just those are my quick little all my like corporal's course and sergeant's course stuff is coming back into my head. I might see if I can run us through a little ringer at some point.
Oh, for sure. Well, I think you and I need to give back to the taxpayers that taught us leadership, and we can run a leadership course for the people that paid for ours at some point.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Love to talk about some great man theory about how we used to think about leadership. It's kind of funny. But to your point, I think you had a really good point here, which is your little trifecta of what is it? Accountability, responsibility, and authority. It's all of those working in conjunction, and delegation is honestly just an extension of that, like you talked about. It's that idea, which is that like, yeah, not everyone's going to be scrubbing toilets, but at some point somebody has to scrub the toilets. Just figure it out if it's you or not, and then try to help the people that are scrubbing toilets and really empower them to do their best, even if you're not the one holding the brush. Alrighty, with that being said, we do have some new folks in the chat that we want to shout out tonight, and also say hi to everybody as well. Mrs. Producer, if you can pull up that one that we just talked about, or actually tell you what, this works fine as well. We got Moonpilled Rational Optics, good buddy of the channel. Always glad to see you, my friend. Says go over, under, around, and even through it if necessary. Agreed. I forgot what that was in reference to, but it's not wrong. We got Jenna Nelson. Jenna, good to see you. She says coffee is essential. 100%. I myself am coffee gang, although I am waning down, so to speak. It is probably a story for another day, but there used to be a time when I was drinking about 10 to 12 cups of coffee a day, and now we're down to about 3 or 4. So, hey. We have SMO Spider, self-directed. Yes, we're all trying to be self-directed here. Good to see you as well. And we got Charlotte Nightstar the Werewolf. She says, hi, y'all. Good to see you. Thanks for popping in, everybody. The chat's been very active tonight. It's awesome to see you guys putting out your thoughts in here. And then Mrs. Producer, if you don't mind. Yes, there it is. That's the one I wanted. Jenna Nelson dropping a little nugget for us here. She says, demonstrating accountability in our own conduct and encouraging it in others. We empower others and workers to take ownership, learn from challenges, and collectively strive for success. It's hard to disagree with that. Yeah, accountability.
It is, but it needs to be done in a certain way, right? So what she's talking about here, this is something that, like, say, companies try to employ and say, yeah, this is what you need to do to the new guy who just got hired on. You know, and then you'll sit there in meetings and you'll be like, repeat. But yet you yourself are feeling like, do I really care? I don't think I actually care about this, right? Meanwhile, you know, you're asking your boss, why is it we're doing what we're doing? And they're like, oh, to demonstrate accountability for, and it's like, what does that matter? This is where like honesty comes in. And I do believe he actually talks about that, about letting having the decentralized leadership, right? Allowing these people to actually have the ability to make those decisions because they have that information themselves, to be able to see the full picture. And if you see one of your subordinates who is kind of like maybe feeling that way, right? And you're like, you need to demonstrate some accountability, and they're just like, nah, I really don't care. Then it's like, okay, do you not see the full picture, or is it that you just don't want to be here? Because it's either or, right? And that right there is when you can start sharing about what the full picture is, and then bam, That's exactly what happens, because then they will strive for success.
Fair enough. Alrighty. I want to pivot to my last planned talking point for the evening before I turn it loose to you guys in the chat. By the way, chat, if you have any questions or points you want to bring up, throw them in there. We will cover them. So we see you guys, and we appreciate everyone being here and contributing to the conversation. Granted, it is a little bit of us talking into the void. However, we're doing it for each other and for you guys. So let us know what you think. Last one. This is a little bit of a favorite talking point about Jocko and honestly a lot of military folks in general. And it is the dreaded they, or the them. The they, the them. They told me to do this. They don't like this. They want this. It's the word they is a very easy cop-out, and it's definitely possible to not exactly attribute forces to specific people that are above you or things that you fear, but kind of just like this overall sense of dread in an area. So in particular, I believe it's chapter 10, Jocko talks about this one a lot, which is that one of his second in commands was talking about they want me to justify my actions before I do missions. And in this case, Jocko kind of corrected him a little bit and was like, yes, the they is our bosses and their bosses' bosses. And it's like, yes, it understands, it feels like this pressure coming from above that is imposing on you. However, at the same time, using the word they or them, the they want, that group of unnamed individuals, the Illuminati, trying to fight them feels very
impersonal.
I don't know why. It is impersonal, but it's all,
it's impersonal, it's ineffective, and like this is something
the best
that
word for this one. Take it away.
Yeah, I'm trying to contain my emotional response here and word this in a rational and tolerable manner. It is important to identify the people that we're speaking about. We don't live in a world full of enemies and others. We live in a world full of people that have identities, and they have goals, and they have aspirations, and they have things that they're going for that might be in line with what we're going for, and they have things that they're doing that might be outside of what we want, right? Just because we're not on the same page does not mean that we're necessarily enemies. We might disagree on one or two or everything, but otherizing people is a dangerous road to go down. Calling people they, calling people them, saying like, oh, those damn, fill in X, Y, and Z descriptive word, right? It's different when you're talking to one person, but when you're in a group speaking to a whole bunch of people, whenever you're in like a group hive mentality, the IQ of each individual person goes down the more people that there are involved in anything. Take a look at a riot versus like two people out having a coffee. Take a look at like a committee versus a president and a vice president determining the direction of a company. The more people that there are around, we have to be more and more careful about the language that we use. And this is one of the things that Jocko talks about that I am like incredibly in line with, which is they're like otherizing or villainizing or like or dehumanizing the conversational opponents, or like opponent might not be the right word, but something to that nature, like folks that are just not necessarily currently aligned with what we're doing. It's a dangerous road to go down when we otherize people. Recognize. Yeah, that's all I had. I'm beating a dead horse.
You're good. I think you hit that squarely on the head. It's using the they concept or some other group. It is A, dehumanizing, and B, villainizing. Because in reality, like you said, it's just people. It might feel like the corporate board or whatever that you've never actually seen in person for your normal job, kind of imposing wills upon you. It's very easy to fall into that mindset of believing that you're actively fighting this invisible force. And if you're fighting an invisible force, you're always going to lose because you're not swinging for anything. You're not going to hit anything ever, which means that you're just wasting time, energy, and emotions. So the answer to this one, it comes back to the idea of the ownership, which is that this is the leading up and down the chain of command concept, which is that instead of just believing in the enigma that is fighting you that you can never beat, try to look at the actual individuals that are above you. And then, like Will was saying, understand that you might be in conflict with these people at the current point, but there's probably a good reason for it. Understand what that reason is, and then try to incentivize them or motivate them or try to provide the information necessary to make both your lives easier. Because guess what? Chances are they don't want to fight you either. Chances are you might be some C-suite level executive, and it feels like this invisible force of the workforce where you can't put in a single face on them are not doing what you want to do. but it's the meeting in the middle point. It's finding that. What do you guys think? The concept of they and fighting the invisible, the Illuminati, how does that work out in
realistically, bro? There's no one out to get you. No one cares enough to devote all of their time to making your life horrible, right? No matter who you are.
But you mean I don't have an FBI agent watching me at all times?
No, I mean, so like they're not gonna spend their so like let's be honest. Most people that are watching this channel are in the middle of the bell curve in some like aspect or another, right? Like I'm sorry to say it, but like everybody here on the panel.
Retarded?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that
average, which is worse.
I'm saying that most likely, most everyone is in the middle of the bell curve, right? In some respect or another. In any case, like if someone were to chase you to extract resources, right? There's a limit to the amount of resources they can extract because we're probably not incredibly wealthy people that it would like if I'm going to spend 10 hours of my day every day trying to get your wealth, Farmer Jay, then like at the end of the road I'm going to be rewarded with whatever your wealth is, right? It might be worth it for me to spend 15 seconds a day, but it's not like I'm not going to devote hours and hours of my time. Like think about it as like a private investigator. Would a private investigator get paid to go after you? Is what you have like worth something to someone to like go after you? And then like you could also throw in like emotional reasoning, like is there some sadistic ex-girlfriend out there who wants to see me burn or something? Like sure, but like think about it, she probably isn't going to devote more than 1 hour a day to trying to burn your house down. She's still got the other 23 hours of her life. Realistically, like again, realistically, we're discounting anomalies because if we factor in anomalies to everything that we talk about, then we could just talk about what ifs all day long. Realistically, people are not going after you. People are not out to try and make the world a worse place for you specifically. They're probably just trying to make their own lives easy and their own lives like, you know, more facilitated and getting their own goals accomplished or something like that. I'm not saying that you're average, Farmer Jay. You're an exceptional man, and just by the nature of you being on this podcast and doing book club with us, what is this, number 5, number 6 right now? Like you've got a roll, man. Like not so long ago, you were like not so long ago, all of us were just fucking nameless faces in a Telegram chat, and then we all decided to run our mouths on camera. And we all decided to agree on one common goal of like, hey, we're going to read this book every week and we're going to talk about it and we're going to like discover all these things. Like by nature of us are very like being on this podcasting, we're not average. I'm saying that as more of like a relatable point. But like all things being equal, there's probably not somebody out there trying to get you. There probably is no boogeyman. There's just like accidents that happen, like a tree. Just because like a tree falls across the road while you're driving doesn't mean that like God's trying to smite you or something. It's just like, oh, the tree fell in front of my car.
And as far as those girls coming after Will, what you do to them? What you do to them? Take accountability.
I don't like the way that you're spinning this. That's not the original intention. The point is, some people do crazy things. Go ahead.
Guys. Will, we're trolling you. We're just making jokes, right? You seem like
sure.
Almost like
I'm a troll, bro. I'm literally a troll. I live under a bridge.
Yeah,
that makes me a troll.
Excellent.
I just wanted to let you know, we're just having a good time. There's no
I
don't actually think there's an FBI agent watching us. It's just all in good
There
fun.
might be.
Yeah, no, for real. But like, this is for whoever wants to take this information as you will. The information is correct.
Maybe I could help out a little bit here.
Sure.
Here's the common thing when it comes to the they them type of deal, right? When it's us versus them, it's usually the big wigs are making rules that you, the worker, have to follow. And your boss tells you have to follow them. And so they are ruining your life. It's as simple as that. That's the normal thing.
I thought I was the one ruining my life with the decisions I made. But
you guys are free to believe the things that we need to get back on. So I apologize for leading us down this rabbit hole.
You're good.
Zenith,
I'm gonna
do you have
pick up where you dropped us off a little bit, which is that it's the idea that
Thank you.
Like to go back to the idea of like being in the middle of the bell curve. Yes, odds are we're probably average in some sort of way out there. Are we the weirdos that are willing to talk into the void on a podcast about books that we've read? I think, what are we on, like episode 18 now? This is kind of wild.
This is 18 of book club, yeah.
Exactly. So in that sense, are we doing something different? Yes. Are there nefarious forces that are watching us? Chances are no. It's believing that it's this idea that you kind of realize part of growing up, in my opinion, is when you become an adult, you are always, or at least when you're like a teenager in high school, you're always worried about like other people looking at me. How am I seen? And do I look fine? Is my makeup wrong? Does my clothes look stupid? And then you become an adult and you kind of realize like, oh, nobody gives a crap. Nobody's looking too hardly at any individual person. Everyone is always thinking about themselves. So really, there is no imaginary microscope of some higher power just like staring at you. It's understanding that like odds are you're probably not standing out too much. So it's not really like, don't sweat it. Don't worry about
Can I
like,
pop in here quick?
please do.
One thing I want to say about this is, Will, you have a very good point. There are some people out there who legitimately are convinced that somebody or something is out to get them. But I think that for me, the biggest takeaway of this whole idea of using the terminology they, them, is it goes back to something I've said before, that people always need something to like fight about. Doesn't necessarily mean a physical sense, doesn't mean like I need to argue with people. It means they need to have like a common enemy. They need to have somebody to kind of point the blame on. And if we have a they, it's a very generic way to do that. So how to influence and influence people also had an example of this. And I don't mean to keep relating these back. I just remember these things, I guess. But
it's funny how these are all related.
Yeah, very much so. But he had that story in there where somebody went into his boss and he said, hey, I messed up. I did this thing. I don't remember the story exactly right now, but the boss was like, oh, no, it's this person's fault. And he's like, no, I did this thing. He's like, no, but it's this person's fault. They should have done this. And he's like, no, I did the thing. And they went back and forth on this until finally the boss had to be like, okay, well, you're right. It's your fault. Don't do it again. So the idea of having a they or a them to point the blame at is such a powerful thing for people, because it's a very effective way to avoid accountability. It's a very effective way to have something to be angry at and have something to fight at that point, because then you have a common enemy with whoever it is that, you know, the situation is going on with. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to add in, Zenith, what you're talking about is there's very low chance that we have so many eyes on us and so many people paying attention to us. I did want to pop in and say that anxiety, social anxiety, will make you think that. I have a little bit of social anxiety, and one thing that I saw the other day was a description of it. Social anxiety is you're in a meeting, you had an apple, you know, everybody's got their snacks, so you know you're not alone, you're not the only person with a snack, but you finish the apple and you're sitting there at the apple core, and you do not want to get up and go throw it in the trash because you are afraid that everybody's going to watch you. And I've literally experienced that. So there are some people who do have that anxiety, and they really do have a fear of everybody paying attention to them. And you have to be able to kind of break free of that, because, I mean, you're completely right. 90% of those people ain't paying any attention to you. So for me, it was an experience of getting up, throwing away the apple, and I would look around the room when I turned back around, and like, there were no eyes on me. Nobody cared. And it took a long time to like break out of that mindset, though. So, you know, that's just another part of it. I think anxiety is something that we see a lot more frequently in today's world too.
Absolutely. All these ideas, there's a really great excerpt right there, which is that this ties into the they idea, that ominous force idea, which is that these are all ways in which we kind of hamstring ourselves, because there's a quote which is that power resides in where people believe that it does. So if you believe that there's some sort of authority or force or power that is above you that's trying to hurt you or something, you're shifting that focus and that power, and you're putting it there yourself. That's what they think does. That's what believing that people are watching you does. That's kind of what that anxiety stuff does. I understand anxiety is like a little bit of a medical thing as well. I'm not well versed to talk about this. However, what all this is that you as a person are putting this power somewhere else. And I know there's a man on the panel who is very familiar with this concept, and he might call it a self-limiting belief. I want to ask Sam, why do you think that we as humans kind of have a tendency to just like do these things and put these self-limiting beliefs on ourselves?
Well, sure. So like I could give a very meta answer to that, which is what makes sense to me is that like people are only as comfortable with like the reality that they could achieve so much more as they're willing to believe. So like when someone decides that they're going to just achieve great things, and their friend group or their people that they're around don't want to achieve great things because that requires a lot of work, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of time, all of these things. And if they're around someone who's doing that, that's going to make them think about themselves. And so they're going to, basically like they're not going to allow themselves to realize that what their friend is doing is positive. And so eventually it's going to be a negative thing. And so I would say, like, in terms of introspection, having the self-limiting beliefs are like buffers. They're designed to like keep people who are okay with not being like, people can still be great and not accomplish crazy good things. But the self-limiting beliefs, assuming that you're like relatively mentally like there, people can have trauma or various things that cause unhealthy problems in their brains that are going to like extra cause or cause extra self-limiting beliefs. But to me, it seems like they're people who don't want to accept that they could have done more. And so these self-limiting beliefs there's like aura of negativity is just going to live in their psyche. And if they see somebody like drive down the street in a Ferrari or like a Lamborghini or something that shows access to a lot of like wealth and opportunity and money and all this great stuff, they're probably going to automatically disqualify. Like, first of all, they probably like cheat their taxes, or they probably stole it from someone, or they probably this, that, and the other thing. Right. And like, maybe not all the time, or maybe they're just gonna be like, oh, good for them. But either way, they're probably going to turn around and not think to themselves, gee, what would I have to do right now that would make me a step closer to having a Lamborghini one day? They're probably not going to think that, because like there's so much work and mental effort that would be involved in both, like not just doing all the work, but realizing and changing the framework of your mind to see that you could do that. Like it's a conditioning thing to me. And so this kind of a long,
but that takes work, Sam.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, guess what? Work is required, especially if you start taking ownership. I wanted to ask you this question because one of the dots that I was connecting when I was reading this book was talking about self-limiting beliefs. And it's kind of how the idea of this extreme ownership philosophy really is the solution to that. It is the opposite of it. The self-limiting belief is believing that you are unable to do something because of something outside of yourself. However, when it comes to extreme ownership, it's this idea that you have direct control over everything. It's the opposite. It's instead of looking outside in, it's looking inside out. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, self-limiting beliefs are those things that I think we try to tackle every day. And they're the little things that stop ourselves from achieving stuff on our own. So
self-limiting is simply defeatist mindset.
Exactly, Nate, you're entirely correct. Having self-limiting beliefs will automatically defeat yourself, because the person that you're fighting right here, it's in your own head. That's a tough battle to win. However, at the same time, it's easily beatable once you start actually taking accountability and having that ownership inside of yourself to accomplish those things by believing that you have that ability to influence the things outside of yourself. Alrighty, with that said, we are coming to a bit of the end of the show here. So I do want to pass it around the horn and get final thoughts and get our evaluation of where this book falls in the library for us. So with that being said, Mr. Nate McGettit, over to you. Where can the people find you? What do you think about the book, my man?
Yeah, so you can find me at just simply in the Telegram, which is right way over there. But yeah, you can go ahead and scan that QR code. Forgive me for that. But yeah, you can just scan the QR code and bam, you're right in there. Everything we really are, like, we're not just crypto alone, but we're expanding the fitness, like with book club here, Z. When you started this is all about like mindset. It's all about becoming a better you, the best person that you could possibly be in every single dimension ever, right? But yeah, it always requires work. It's always about moving forward. trying the best that we can do, be the best that we can be. This book in particular for me is I absolutely loved it because it brought up a lot of things I never really thought about, right, when it came to leadership. And there's a lot of things I'll be implementing from this. So, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I listened to the book and then I was like, oh, is it over? Oh, whoops. And meanwhile, even though my day was extremely busy, I had the fortune of not having a trainee with me today, because when that happens, I usually can't, just plug in and go and do my thing. So I was able to basically plug in all day long, and it was a good 10-hour day for me, literally getting home as we were supposed to be getting in the stream and all that. So no, I highly recommend this book. It's probably one of my top 3, I would say. There's a lot, I don't know, maybe it's not everybody's cup of tea, but for me, this is definitely my cup of tea. It's the sweet deliciousness cup of tea that I love so much, with honey added. So
beautiful.
I
Love to
recommend
hear
this
it.
book.
Excellent. All right, passing it over to Farmer Jay. Where can the people find you, and what did you think of this book? Where does it fall for you? And you are muted, my friend. You're rugging yourself before the stream's even over.
There we go. The way I see books is either books I like or I don't. There's a few books I really like, but as far as this book goes, I like it. And when I say I like a book, is this something I would consider reading again or listening to again? And as far as this book goes, I did like it. Like, I probably will listen to it again. I did pay for it. So
true,
yeah,
true,
like
man.
I like the book. There was a lot of valuable lessons in there. Like the war stories he goes through, like it's more like a entertainment to keep certain audience engaged if you're into that. But there's value added to that he gives you. He'll give you the lesson after the story. So I particularly like the book, and you guys can probably find me here on the book club every Friday. If y'all let me on, I have no control. I have no control.
Hey, we're happy to have you on, brother.
Yeah.
We're helping you break into the space. What is this, stream
Yeah.
number 6 for you, I think?
It's like 6 something. Who knows?
Hey, we'll get you to double digits soon enough.
Yeah.
Don't even worry.
But yeah, you can just find me on here or in the DJ and Telegram chat. That's the only places that you'll be able to find me.
Beautiful. Alrighty, passing it over to Sam. Where can people find you? What did you think about the book?
People could find me at linktree/Samuel D. Stevenson, or you can check out my Bungalows for Bachelors YouTube channel, or follow me on Telegram. Join the community, t.me/BFB Success. I thought this was a fantastic book. Kind of like I said in the beginning, this is just like a great place to start. I mean, there were a lot of stories in it, but I mean, like, there's just so many things you can improve about your interactions with people if people realize that they're not going to like feel like they have to blame you for something. There's so many more positive interactions you're going to have day to day if you start taking some of these actions in this book. Take some ownership for all the things that are going on in your life. So I recommend it. Recommend it to everybody. That's what I think.
Love it. Excellent. All right, Mrs. Producer, over to you. Where can the people find you, and how does this book fit in the library for you?
Well, I'm basically in the same position as Farmer Jay when it comes to where you can find me. I'm here in book club every Friday. Sickness providing, there's been a lot of that going around, so I have missed a few, and it's making me very sad. But other than that, I'm in the Telegram. If anybody ever needs anything, you can hit me up. I do a lot of the background stuff for the DJ Roundtable. So if you've got any, like, if you want to get on as a guest, or if you want to like suggest ideas, if you got anything like that, I'm one of the people you can contact, and I will get with everybody else and figure all that out. As for where this book falls for me, like I said, I had a hard time kind of relating to it. I am very much seeing a lot of connections with other books that I like, and I think I want to give this one another listen. Maybe when I have kind of more of like, just like more of a relaxed week. This week has been stupid busy for me. And see if that helps me to be able to focus more on the stories and really absorb it. I didn't dislike it by any means. Just for me, it didn't really stand out. So probably not my top 10. I can't say everything's in the top 10 anymore now that we've done more than 10 books. So
That's true. We're getting up there. Fair enough. That makes perfect sense to me. I totally understand where you're coming from. And we are always happy to have you on the show, especially when you're healthy. And even when you're not healthy, you're always helping out with the show. So massive thank you to you on that one. Alrighty. Over to my lovely co-host, Mr. Will Stevenson. Where can the people find you at?
So the folks can find me. All of my socials and everything is found at linktree/Will Stevenson. I'll wait 7 seconds, then I'll drop that in the chat, and you guys should hear it at the same time that I drop it. But the folks can find me over there. You guys can also find me in Springfield, Missouri tomorrow at noon at Houlihan's. It's like hooligans, but with an H instead of a G. And it's over in Springfield, Montana. I'll be there around about noontime, and then after that, or not Montana, excuse me, Missouri, Springfield, Missouri, not Montana. Man, I don't know who the heck determined the who determined the abbreviations for states, but MO for Missouri is just a damn shame. Anyways, that's where I'm going to be. After I'm done over in Springfield, I'll be heading straight down to Dallas, Texas, and that's where I will be for the foreseeable future. So I'm going to try and organize at least one more Hex Texas meetup, and we'll see what we can do from there. If you guys are a Hexican and you want to meet up with other Hexicans, then I highly suggest that you join the Hex Meetup channel. I will go ahead and drop the description, or not the description, but I will drop the link in the Telegram, I will drop the Telegram link in the YouTube comments section here very shortly, and you guys will be able to go directly on over there. It's basically a place for crypto people to meet up with other crypto people all around the world. What you do is you hop on into the Telegram, you read through the start here thing, you introduce yourself if you wish to do so, and then you find other people that are in your area. The problem with the introductions is if not enough people introduce themselves, then other people don't know where other people are, and you can't reach out and find folks. So the more people that are introducing themselves to others, the better the more valuable the Telegram system will be. Dox yourself to whatever level you feel comfortable. You can say like what state you're in. You can say what city you're in. You can say like a major geographical area that is like around you or something like that. But the more people that are talking about their locations and hopping into the chats of locations and being active in there, the more valuable this thing will be, the more meetups we'll have. We've already had, I want to say like 4 or 5, maybe 6 meetups sprout up as a result of this Telegram that I made being used by many people. So shill this channel out wherever you like. Join the DGen Roundtable channel. More importantly, come hang out with us. It's free right now. It's not always going to be free. But yeah, hop on in the DGen Roundtable chat. Hop in the DGen Book Club chat. Hop in all the chats. We love to see you guys here, and I want to give a big shout out to all you guys at home watching us live, and especially thank you guys on the replay. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Leave us a comment, share this thing out with your friends, and make sure that you bitch, moan, and complain about everything that you think is fantastic. Just kidding, don't do that. The world's a fantastic place. Tell everyone else around you how fantastic the world is, and do nothing but spread positivity. Mr. Zenith, my friend, why don't you go ahead and take us on out of here, bud?
I will, but you still have one more question you have to answer for us, which is, what do you think of the book? Where does this fall in your library?
The book's pretty good, and I think that that's simply I don't want to downplay the value of it. I just think that I've been inundated with the content that is relevant in the book for quite a long time, and so it's not novel to me. It's not new to me, but it is fantastic material. So if this was my first time reading this book or learning about leadership principles, then I think it would be just absolutely fantastic. And I still think it's fantastic. It's just something that's like, if you spend all of your time thinking about and talking about and doing things for basically a decade, then I can't sell the spark or anything, but I do think it's fantastic coursework, fantastic information, and everybody should read this book at least once. That way you get a good idea of how to be a better leader.
I like it, and I agree with you. So, Mrs. Producer, if you would do me the honor, we have a few last shout-outs we want to give to the chat before we get out of here, and I do my last spiel. So, SMO Spider, she had a really great comment earlier talking about how walking in gratitude is accountability. And I really like this one a lot because, in my opinion, the idea of going throughout your life and being grateful for things means that you understand the importance to you, and then also having the ability to understand your interaction with them and what you get out of it. I like that. I thought that was a good one. All right, what else we got? We got the bull. He says, "Sup, fam? Good to see you, my man." Speaking of the bull, we are heading into a bull market here shortly, so we're excited about that. And we have Crypto Black Sheep. He says, "What up? Glad to see the DJ gang in the house." I know he's probably handing out a lottery ticket on his stream tomorrow for his project. So if you like a little scratcher and you want to have some fun, go check him out. He streams at 4:20. Is it Eastern time?
420
Yeah, the
Pacific.
4:20
the DGen
Pacific.
protocol.
And
420
4:20
Pacific. That is 620 Central, 720 Eastern. Go ahead, Zenith. Sorry.
Love it. Yeah. No, the dude has been streaming for, I almost want to say 1,300 episodes every day in a row. So dedication and hats off to him. We love having him on, as well as Dev Donnie. Those guys are awesome.
Yes.
Alrighty. Do we have any more chats that we want to hit? Or are we good? I see Jenna Nelson
are
and
good.
Cam talking about possibly hitting up New York City in October 21st.
Oh,
That is for the Richard Hart hearing in front of the SEC. That is actually turning out to be a bit of a big event. So a lot of us are trying to go to that. Will, what you got?
I will say that I'm not trying to go to that event. I will be at that event. You've heard it here live. I'm going to be in New York on October 24th. So I will see those of you there who decide to meet me. Other than that, that's all I got, Zenith.
Tell
Hey,
you what,
Will.
I'll put my money where my mouth is as well. I will be in New York on October 24th. So I will
Hell
be there
yeah.
as well.
Yeah,
Excellent.
no,
Nate,
and
what
I'm,
you got?
I'm gonna try and make that my first official live appearance too, in front of everybody. Be like, "Hi, I'm here. I'm actually real. You can poke me."
I like
I'm
it.
going to be breaking into you guys' houses since y'all won't be there.
Farmer, get off my lawn.
Taking your, I'm gonna be looking for them treasures and keys.
True. This Tam Tam is correct. This is going to be epic. And then Jenna, to answer your question, you're going to have to ask Will that one. Will, do people need VIP tickets to meet you?
I am open to any. If you want to find a VIP ticket, if you present me with a
I am
VIP ticket,
selling
I will be so flattered.
VIP tickets to meet Will. I am selling VIP tickets to meet Will.
I love meeting everybody under the sun. As long as you guys are positive people and you're wonderful and you contribute to the world and make the world a better place, I'm all about it. If you're an energy vampire, I'll shake your hand and I'll move right along. But you know, we can still deal with it. I have a feeling though that most everybody in the world is a good person, and so I'm always happy to meet new people. Everybody, you know what? Fucking A, of course you have to have a VIP ticket because every fucking one of you guys that are listening to this channel right now is a fucking VIP, and I'll stand by those words.
Fact.
That's
I
true.
like it. And
You
by
are
the
the
way,
few,
nothing is
you're the
stopping you
proud.
from. Sorry, Nate, I cut you off there. What you got?
No, I was gonna say no. Everybody here is a VIP because you're the few, the proud, and actually learning and listening.
Hell yeah. Everyone's sticking out here on a Friday night talking about books, about ownership and accountability. Yeah, this is some winning behavior. I like it. Yeah, Mood Pill Rational Optics. He says, Farmer, the wild card of the group. Definitely. We got a handful of wild cards, I got to say. Anyways, yes, if you are interested in the New York stuff, take a look at the pulsechaintour.com. I believe they're going to have events coming up. You can RSVP right now on their website. Shout out to RG3, A Wild SJ, and Black Hexkin. They do awesome work over there, and we like supporting them every chance we get and hanging out with them too. Who knows? Maybe one of these days we'll get invited to speak at one of those events. I would be honored if they reached out to us and invited us to do that. Anyways, as for me, what did I think of the book? In my opinion, the book itself, it reads decent. However, these concepts are very, very important to me, and I think that they are one of the foundational tenets that people need in order to operate effectively within the crypto space, and honestly, life in general. The idea of understanding that it is not your fault that everything happens to you, but it is entirely your fault and responsibility how you respond to them. One of the sayings that I think I grew up with is that life is 20% about what happens to you and 80% about how you respond to those things that happen to you. So, little Pareto principle there for you. I thank everyone for indulging me a little bit on this one. I know we didn't really have anything in particular for this week, and this book has been on my short list of things I want to cover, even knowing it's not the best read, but the concepts. I think these are very important, and you can't find them everywhere. Jocko's not everyone's cup of tea. However, at the same time, I really hope this did provide value and some sort of mindset or insight into how we like to operate around here, or me personally. I know a lot of us have similar philosophies, so it's awesome when we get together and talk about all this stuff. So with that being said, I am Zenith. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ZenithDI. That stands for Digital Investments. I think Farmer was making a comment earlier about how we don't buy cryptos, we buy digital assets. I entirely agree. However, at the same time, we also know that time is your most valuable asset, and we thank you very much for spending it with us tonight. Yes, Jenna, it is Friday. Thank you for spending time with us on a Friday night. And with that being said, we do want to remind everyone to degen responsibly. See you guys later.